The manager's fist caught her by the collar, dragging the black waitress toward the dark corridor behind the bar. Her tray fell, wine spreading like blood over the marble floor. No one moved. At table 7, a man in a charcoal suit watched through the mirrored wall. Silent, still, calculating. He owned the restaurant, and by the time he stood, no one dared breathe. The chandeliers of Loro Chicago glowed like a crown above corruption. Every plate polished, every lie rehearsed. Mara Evans, the black waitress, carried herself with quiet precision. Straight back, clean hands, tired eyes. At table 9, the senator's party laughed too loudly. Franklin, the manager, hovered near them, pouring the cheaper wine with a label that didn't match the bill. Mara noticed again. 3 weeks, same trick. She folded the receipt in half, heart hammering but tone calm. "Sir, this total isn't correct." Franklin turned, smile painted on like cheap polish. "You calling me a thief now, sweetheart?" She didn't blink. "I'm saying this table ordered House Chianti, not reserve." The laughter around them shrank to silence. Someone set down a fork. The senator's wife looked away. Franklin's grin twisted. He leaned in until the smell of whiskey hit her nose. "You want to embarrass me in front of guests?" "I'm just—" He grabbed her by the collar, jerking her forward so hard the top button of her blouse popped loose. The tray slipped, glasses shattered, red wine fanning across the marble like a stain that would never wash out. Gasps. Someone whispered, "Is he serious?" He yanked her toward the back hallway. "Let's talk where no one's recording." The dining room froze, except for one man. At table 7, Alessandro Moretti lifted his eyes from his plate. The reflection in the mirrored column showed everything. Franklin's hand in her collar, the fear in her eyes, the fall of broken glass. He rose slowly, straightened his cufflink. Power doesn't rush. It simply arrives. By the time Franklin shoved Mara against the corridor wall, Alessandro was already behind him. "Think you're brave now?" Franklin hissed. "You're done here." Mara's voice trembled. "Then fire me, but don't touch me." The sound that followed was quiet, but the world shifted with it. "Let her go." Franklin turned. Alessandro stood half in shadow, half in gold light from the hall. Calm. Deadly calm. "Mr. Moretti, sir, this is a misunderstanding." "Of course it is," Alessandro said softly. "You mistook my kindness for blindness." He stepped closer. The difference in their stature wasn't physical. It was moral. "You humiliate staff in my house? In my name?" Franklin swallowed. She accused me." "She told the truth," Alessandro cut in. "And that's something you've never risked doing." He looked to Mara, voice soft again. "Go back to the floor, Miss Evans." She hesitated. "Sir, the receipt." "Already handled." As she left, Alessandro leaned toward Franklin, speaking so low it was almost a secret. "You'll finish your shift tonight. Quietly. Then you'll hand over every record you altered. If you vanish before sunrise, I'll assume you understand consequences." Franklin's throat worked soundlessly. When Alessandro walked back into the golden dining room, the chandeliers flickered once, as if even the light knew who was truly in charge. The night thinned to murmurs and clinking glasses. By the time Franklin slunk back into the lobby, Alessandro Moretti was already seated again, a phone pressed loosely between two fingers. "Marco," he said, voice low. "Pull the internal footage from every camera in the last 30 days. Start now." At the far end of the hall, the security officer glanced up, pale. "Yes, sir." The pianist resumed softly, but the melody sounded nervous, uneven. Guests tried to forget what they'd witnessed. No one could. Franklin's hands shook as he poured water for table 3. He didn't notice the black sedan idling outside the front window, headlights dim, engine humming like a clock counting down. Upstairs, in the glass-walled office overlooking the dining floor, monitors flickered to life. 12 angles of the restaurant bloomed on screen. Bar, corridor, private dining, loading dock. Aleandro stood behind the head of security, eyes tracing each frame until he found what he wanted. Franklin, grabbing Mara by the collar, dragging her through the doorway. "Pause," he said. The screen froze on the exact moment of contact. The reflection of chandeliers shimmered in the glass, framing violence in gold. "Copy that clip," Aleandro continued. "Send 1 copy to legal, 1 to payroll, delete nothing." He turned to Clara, the night accountant who had rushed in clutching ledgers. "Cross-check every invoice under Franklin's code. Any vendor name ending with Consulting LLC, flag it." Clara nodded, typing fast. "Sir, there are 18 entries, same routing number." "Good," he said. "Now it's 19 mistakes too many." Downstairs, Mara returned quietly to the floor, tray steady despite the tremor in her hand. Guests avoided her eyes, guilt heavy in their silence. Aleandro watched her from the mezzanine, a small figure moving through the light, still dignified. He tapped a message into his phone. "Bring Franklin's contract. Terminate effective midnight." Then another. "Hartley Development accounts. Trace any shared transfers." A soft buzz replied almost instantly. "Understood." When he looked up, Franklin stood below, pretending to inspect menus. Aleandro descended the stairs 1 deliberate step at a time. "Oh, Mr. Franklin," he said evenly, "join me in the office." Franklin followed, sweat shining on his temples. Inside, Aleandro gestured toward the monitors. "You overcharged senators, lawyers, my investors, under my roof." Franklin's voice cracked. It was for the restaurant, sir. Marketing costs." Aleandro cut him off with a faint smile. "Marketing doesn't include assault or theft." He reached for the remote and hit play. The footage rolled, soundless but undeniable. Franklin's grip on Mara's collar, her face twisting away, the broken glass. "Tell me," Aleandro asked quietly, "does this look like management training?" Franklin collapsed into the chair. "Please, give me a chance to fix it." "You already did," Aleandro replied. "You fixed it for her." He turned to Clara. "Call security." 2 men appeared at the door. Franklin stood, stammered something that never became a word, and was escorted out. Aleandro exhaled once, slow. The pianist below changed tunes. Something lighter, nervous, like the air itself, feared him. He picked up the phone again. "Inform the press office," he said. "Tomorrow, Loro Chicago announces new management, effective immediately." Outside, the black sedan's engine finally shut off. Inside, the city's quiet king adjusted his cufflink, the symbol of balance restored. Mara sat alone in her tiny apartment. The city muffled by the steady buzz of her old refrigerator. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Franklin's face, the smirk, the grip, the humiliation. Her phone kept lighting up with messages from coworkers. "He's saying you attacked him." "HR's calling people in." She powered it off. She needed proof. From the bottom drawer of her nightstand, she pulled out a battered black and white notebook. Inside were pages filled with cramped handwriting, dates, names, receipts, 3 months of stolen charges, fake tips, and incidents no one dared to report. Each page was a quiet scream, evidence of every crime Franklin and the management buried under candlelight and jazz. June 15th, Franklin added $150 cocktail upgrade. June 20th. He grabbed my wrist, left bruises. July 3rd. Manager Jake laughed when I showed him the footage. Mara stared at the ink smudged by tears. For months, she'd been documenting everything. Not for revenge, but to stay sane. Now, it was her only weapon. "Still up?" Her brother Tommy's voice drifted from the couch. He blinked awake, rubbing his eyes behind cracked glasses. "Couldn't sleep." "Because of last night?" She nodded. He studied her face, saw the bruise shadowing her arm. His jaw tightened. "That's assault. We're calling the police." "We can't," she whispered. "He'll say I provoked him. They always believe management." "Then what? Just let them ruin you." Her eyes flicked toward the notebook. "No," she said quietly. "I'm going to show the truth." Tommy frowned. "How?" Mara opened her laptop. Dozens of photos blinked to life. Receipts, security timestamps, ledger screenshots she'd saved in secret. Hidden folders labeled Inventory 3, Backups, and one simply called Loro Records. Tommy leaned closer. "You've been collecting this all along?" She nodded. "Every fake charge I processed, every shift Franklin covered for the owner's friends. They think no one notices." For the first time, her voice didn't tremble. She scrolled through her evidence, the glow reflecting in her tired eyes. There it was, Franklin's hand altering the totals on a receipt, the camera timestamp matching the night a senator dined there, and another file, emails between Franklin and the general manager discussing special billing arrangements. Tommy exhaled. "Mara, this could destroy them." "Or destroy me," she said. "Depends who sees it first." He hesitated. "You trust anyone there?" Her fingers hovered over one contact. Alessandro Moretti, the restaurant's quiet, well-dressed investor. He'd always tipped the staff directly, never raised his voice, and when Franklin dragged her last night, she could swear she'd seen him stand, just for a second, before the guards intervened. She clicked the message window open but didn't type yet. Outside, dawn broke over Queens, gray light touching the pages of her notebook. Her whole body trembled, but her voice stayed steady as she whispered to herself, "They thought I was just a waitress." She attached the first 3 files, dates, totals, names, and hit send. The email left Mara's outbox at 2:43 a.m. For a second she stared at the screen, expecting something. A bounce, a warning, divine intervention. Nothing. Just sent. She shut the laptop, pressed her palms against her face, and whispered, "Please don't make this worse." Across the city, inside a high-rise suite of the Mariani building, Alessandro Moretti leaned over a desk stacked with invoices and an open laptop of his own. He'd been awake since midnight, auditing the rot Franklin left behind. The notification blinked in the corner of his screen. From Mara Evans, subject, proof. He opened it, receipts, video links, emails from Franklin's private account. Every pattern matched the fraud trail his own accountant had only half traced. But there was something else. A handwritten ledger photographed under warm apartment light. The ink bled in places. The notes were meticulous. He read the line, dated July 3rd. Manager. Jake laughed when I showed him the footage and exhaled. Slow. The girl hadn't been looking for revenge. She'd been begging for someone to listen. He picked up the phone. "Get her address," he told Marco. "Now. And send a driver." 40 minutes later, a black sedan idled under the flickering streetlight outside Mara's building. Tommy peered through the blinds. Who sends a car at 3 a.m.? Mara's stomach tightened. Someone who doesn't need permission. The knock was soft. 2 taps, then silence. When she opened the door, the man in the hallway wasn't Franklin's kind of powerful. He wore power like shadow. "Miss Evans," he said, removing his gloves, "I'm Alessandro Moretti." Her breath caught. She'd imagined this voice 100 ways, none this calm. I didn't know if you'd actually see it. I saw everything." He stepped inside, eyes scanning the cluttered living room. Tired wallpaper, unpaid bills, Tommy's textbooks on the couch. "You kept records," he said. "Every detail." "Yes. Why?" "Because nobody believed me. I thought, if it ever mattered, I'd have proof." He nodded once, the kind of approval that felt heavier than praise. "You were right," he said, "and now it matters." She crossed her arms, defensive. "So, What happens now? You fire Franklin and pretend the place is clean? His mouth curved, not into a smile, something colder. I don't pretend. I remove what's rotten. He placed a small envelope on the table. Inside, an advance check, company letterhead, signed. What is this? Your new position, compliance liaison, temporary. You'll help my auditors reconstruct the fraud. You'll be compensated accordingly. Mara stared at it. You want me back there? Yes, he said, because you're the only person who saw how it worked, and because they still think you're scared. Tommy stepped forward. She's not going anywhere near that place. Alessandro looked at him once. Steady, not hostile. I'll have security with her at all times, and if anyone touches her again, they won't have hands to touch with. Silence. Then, softly, Mara. If I do this, do we make it right? His eyes met hers, dark and absolute. We make it public. He turned toward the door. Be ready at 9. Dress like you're walking back into a lie you plan to bury. When the lock clicked behind him, Tommy exhaled hard. Mara sank into the couch, staring at the envelope glowing under the lamplight. For the first time in months, fear and purpose felt identical. Morning light hit the glass front of Loro Chicago like a camera flash. From the outside, nothing had changed. The white tablecloths, the velvet curtains, the quiet hum of money. But inside, the air felt different, like the building itself knew it was being watched. Mara Evans stood outside the service entrance, her apron folded over one arm. She hadn't worn the uniform since that night. A thin bruise still circled her collarbone, hidden beneath the fabric. Behind her, a black sedan idled. A man with an earpiece leaned against it, scanning the street. Alessandro Moretti's version of security. Inside, heads turned as she walked through the staff corridor. The whispers started immediately. She's back. I thought she was fired. No, she's with him now. Franklin's nameplate was gone from the office door. A new manager sat behind the desk, a woman named Clara, the same accountant from that night now in control. Welcome back, Clara said softly, sliding a clipboard toward her. Schedule's the same. Table rotations, but keep your phone on. If Mr. Moretti texts, you answer immediately. Mara nodded. Is this a setup? Clara's eyes flicked up. No, it's a test. At 1 p.m., the restaurant filled with suits, men from Hartley Development Group. James Hartley, tall, silver hair, perfect suit, carried the same arrogance Franklin once had, only richer, meaner, and better dressed. He ordered a private booth near the mirror wall. Tell Mr. Moretti, he said to the hostess, the offer doubles if he keeps his mouth shut about those audit files. From across the room, Alessandro watched, expression unreadable. He didn't respond. He simply lifted his phone and typed, Table 12, mic on. Mara's earpiece crackled. Clara's voice whispered, Confirm recording. She adjusted her hair, touching the pin clipped near her collar, the tiny camera Alessandro's men had placed that morning. When she approached Hartley's booth, the tension tightened like piano wire. Good afternoon, sir. May I take your order? Hartley glanced at her badge, smirked. Ah, the famous Waitress, the one who got Franklin fired. She kept her tone steady. Red or white, sir? Whichever hides guilt better. Mara wrote it down. Behind her, Alessandro's reflection glimmered faintly in the mirror, motionless, silent, watching. Hartley leaned toward his assistant. He's bluffing. Moretti won't hand over the ledgers. They tie him to the same cash flow. Mara froze mid-step. That wasn't true, but the lie was deliberate. Bait for the cameras. Clara's voice in her ear. Stay calm. Let him talk. Hartley continued, voice low. Transfer everything by midnight, or next week the press gets the recordings of his other business. At the bar, Alessandro set down his drink. He whispered to Marco beside him, Send it live. Marco nodded once, Within seconds, the footage streamed directly to a journalist Aleandro trusted. Anonymous, encrypted, untraceable. By the time dessert reached Hartley's table, the city's biggest financial paper already had the headline drafted. Construction tycoon linked to restaurant laundering scheme. Hartley's phone buzzed. He went pale. What the? Aleandro stood, smoothed his tie, and approached. You're late for your own funeral, he said quietly. Mara watched as Hartley stumbled out of the booth, his empire collapsing in real time. As cameras flashed outside, Aleandro turned to her. You did good, he said. Now we finish it. By sunrise, the city was already awake with chaos. Headlines rolled across digital billboards like breaking waves. Hartley development under criminal investigation. Restaurant. Chain implicated in money laundering. Reporters camped outside Loro, Chicago. Flashes from cameras turned the marble steps into a battlefield of light. But inside, the dining hall remained untouched. Polished, quiet, deliberate. Aleandro Moretti stood near the bar, suit flawless, tie perfect. He watched the reflection of the chaos through the glass doors, calm as stone. Everything's in motion, Marco said behind him. FBI, state auditors, the whole circus. Franklin's gone, left his condo last night, vanished. Good, Aleandro said simply. Let them all chase ghosts. The truth's already printed. He glanced at the TV above the counter. A journalist standing outside the restaurant, shouting over sirens. Sources confirm a former waitress provided key evidence linking Hartley's firm to financial fraud. Mara's face appeared in the corner of the broadcast, blurred but unmistakable. In the office upstairs, Mara sat across from Clara, trembling fingers wrapped around a coffee cup. You're trending, Clara said softly. You realize that? Mara shook her head. I didn't want fame. Clara smiled faintly. No one wants it. It just happens when you tell the truth too loudly. Downstairs, Aleandro entered quietly. You did well, he said. Better than most men I've paid to do this kind of work. Mara looked up. It's over then. He studied her for a moment. Almost. He handed her an envelope. Thick, sealed, heavy. What's this? Your official settlement and offer, he said. Compliance division, permanent position. Double what Franklin earned. She blinked. You're serious? Completely. You don't walk through fire and go back to serving wine. She laughed softly, disbelieving. You think I belong behind a desk? He leaned against the door frame. No, I think you belong where people listen when you speak. For the first time, she smiled. And you? He adjusted his cufflink, his tell. I'll be busy rebuilding what men like Hartley tried to rot. Silence stretched, not awkward, but full. When he finally extended his hand, she shook it. Mr. Moretti. Aleandro, he corrected. Thank you, she said. He met her gaze. You didn't owe me thanks. You owed yourself justice. I just signed the receipts. Hours later, Mara stepped outside. Reporters called her name, but she didn't stop. The winter wind caught her hair as she crossed the same street where nights ago she'd left in tears. Now the same marble doors behind her gleamed in morning light. She glanced back once. Through the restaurant window, Aleandro was still there, speaking to someone in a dark suit. He looked up briefly as if sensing her gaze and nodded once. Not goodbye, but acknowledgement. The traffic light changed. Mara walked forward. For the first time in years, her steps didn't echo like escape. They sounded like arrival.